All right. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody back to what I am calling Conversations with Our Contributors. And I have got the amazing Pete here. I'm so glad that you are with me today. We are excited and we've been planning for a long time how we can feed your expertise and everything that you've got going on into what has now become the climb issue for Moments. We're excited to have you here, not just for today, but we've got you at our launch, speaking at our launch coming up on the 10th. And then again, our climb day. So this is for all of our Calgary friends. If you guys are in the Calgary area, and you want to challenge yourself, you're already on that event planning climb. If you want to get to the next level physically and challenge yourself and have some fun, we're going to be with Pete on the 20th of November at Boulder Climbing Community. So welcome. That's a big introduction. Welcome, Peter. Glad to have you on today.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and I'm excited to be a part of sort of the whole arc of the event. So it's going to be a fun way to sort of get people to see if they do come out and climb, and maybe apply some of that, how much mental effort it takes on top of physical effort, and maybe you'll learn something that you can take back, on Monday.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer that when we get all of us in motion, so our minds and our emotions and our bodies, and when we're fully engaged in life, we start to find different solutions. I don't know if you find that, because I know that your life isn't all climbing, but tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe what has brought you to this point as a coach now and commentator. I'd love to hear a little bit of your story, and then we're going to get into a bit of a teaser on the article that you're going to be writing for the magazine, but also a little bit about what you're going to be talking about on the 10th.
Yeah, for sure. I'll condense it. I'll try to condense it. I found climbing about 25 years ago, just through a friend who was joined a climbing club at Queen's University, and I was in Ottawa, and he said, come down for the weekend and bring sweatpants. We're going to go climbing. And I said, okay, I guess we'll go climbing. And to that point, I had done tons of sports my whole life. Like I grew up playing soccer. I grew up playing, I played tennis. I played badminton. Like if it came in front of me, I played hockey, like all of these things. And I liked them all. I skied, and skiing really spoke to me, and that sort of made me quit a few things so I could ski. And then I found climbing, and I was in university, and just stopped doing other things. I played I was playing sort of pseudo competitive soccer, and I was playing beach volleyball, and I was playing volleyball in the winter, and I found climbing and just went, this is, as soon as I tried it, and as soon as I put a little bit of effort into it, other sports just fell off, and it spoke to me. And there's something about it, and people that have climbed for a long time have that, where they say, yeah, there's a moment in which you say, I could do this every Wednesday because on Tuesday is game night and Wednesday we go climbing, or it just slowly starts to take over because you have to work at it.
Okay.
And if you don't want to plateau, and you don't want to just be the same ability the whole time, you really have to work at it. And because it's not a team sport, you either need to have a peer group, or you need to take it upon yourself to train for it and be better for it. So all of that spoke to me, and I started climbing pretty consistently, and I started competing probably within the first year that I was climbing, and competition really spoke to me because I've been competitive, in sports my whole life. So I started down that path, and then I started coaching. So I had the opportunity to coach the junior program when I moved to Calgary. And I did that for a few years, and that grew into coaching the national team program at the Youth World Championships a couple of times. And that coaching kids like in that competitive environment, I loved it. And I started to learn about coaching and how to take what I knew about climbing and apply it to someone else and see how they took it and what they could do within it. And watching anybody who's coached kids, when you watch them succeed, it's unbelievable. And when you watch them not succeed, you really have to learn how to deal with, teenage angst, at 16 years old, failing at your goal.
You're a
at the
brave soul.
You bear your soul. And it's, that taught me a lot about myself and taught me more about climbing. And it just sort of keeps building. And I started coaching an adult program because you sit in the gym, you're like, I can make you better, just give me a little bit of time. And I pitched this program. So I teach this program for advanced climbers to get better. So they're at the point where they've sort of exhausted their natural ability, or they've got no one in their peer group who's got more knowledge than they do to say, what am I missing? What's going on? I do want to get better. And because the climbing scale the top of the scale is, less than 1% of the climbing population. So people aren't maxing out all over the place. There's always room to improve. And that's just become part of my life and part of what I do.
And I wonder did that kind of lead you to being a commentator as well? Because if you're looking at the micro movements or the small changes, or how somebody that is elite and at the top of their game, how they can maybe find somewhere to go with your climbing. And so even when you're observing as a commentator, do you think that you're bringing in some of those coaching elements into how you're observing and commentating as well?
Absolutely. It's the cornerstone of what I try to bring to commentary. I started doing commentary and emceeing sort of as I stopped competing. There's definitely a point in time where you have to stop competing against people half your age who are just way better than you. So that's part of the deal. And I started commentating, and I realized that I did have the way I approach movement and the way I approach climbing and the way I approach it critically allows me to look at, it doesn't matter how good you are, you can still see what could change or what has happened or why someone's successful. So part of it's not all about fixing mistakes. It's about noting what worked and then applying that to the next competitor in the field even, and saying, hey, you saw this work for this climber. Will this person's style of movement replicate that? Will it be different? So the years of really being critical about the small details and understanding movement and understanding how to improve and change from one moment to the next, not over a year's worth of effort, but literally one attempt to the next attempt. Can you change something? That allows me to take that knowledge in commentary and bring it to the people who are watching, who might not be lifetime fans of climbing. They might be watching their second or third event. They might be watching their 100th event, but still are learning about movement and from watching professionals. And that's something I really enjoy, is to be able to say, I can bring you more than just tell you what's happening on the screen.
Yeah, and it's very interesting how you're describing that, because that sounds very similar to when I'm coaching an event team or an event client, that there are several passes to try to get something right. And I was just talking to a friend this morning that we might have to go at this a few times. So this is a friend client, somebody that's putting on a conference next year, and we're not going to know everything we need to know about doing this, but we're going to stay at it and come at it from a different angle. And then what if we added this or brought that person in? It sounds very much how I coach my clients. And maybe that's why there's such a cool tie in my mind between the climbing world and what a lot of event planners have been going through over this last year, where it is micro adjustments, or it is getting a coach like you, because they may have been at the top of their game before COVID hit here in Canada. And then now they're feeling out of sorts. They're feeling like they don't know what they don't know, or they're not quite sure now what. Like they were at the top of their game. Now they're feeling like either I just let go and I'm out, or then how do I keep climbing? And so we're bringing that to what is now the climb issue of moments. And in your article, I want to chat about this a little bit, because I found it humorous, or I found it comical, in the sense that you said sometimes you've got to try 30, 40 or more times to get it, like where you feel like, I don't know if you could explain that a little bit. And then you also talk about something called the crux. So can you dive into that a little bit for us, where some people that are watching this, they're like, I have tried a gazillion times and it just might be time to get off the wall. What is it when you're seeing, even when you're coaching, you're seeing people go back to it over, you're encouraging them to go back over and over again? What are you looking for, and what are they seeing in themselves, and to really keep going and keep trying?
Yeah, it's one of those things that climbing it's not unique, because there's lots of sports that take time. Like anybody that's swung a golf club knows that you can fix your golf swing for eternity, but you keep coming back. But those adjustments are different. You're making slight mistakes. Often in climbing, when you make a slight mistake, you fall off. You're on the ground, you're hanging on the end of the rope. One or the other is. it's hard to recover from mistakes, and the harder the grades get for you. So it's not just the ceiling, it's not just the hardest in the world, but as you reach your limit, the mistakes have greater consequence. So you can slip and catch yourself on something that's fairly easy. You can make a mistake in the sequence in the way that you want to, move through a series of holds, and you can recover from that because you're stronger than the difficulty that you're working. But as soon as you get to your limit, you need to be almost perfect. And anybody that's ever done anything for any length of time knows that perfect is, it's the state that you go in and out of. You don't just live in it. And that applies at work, it applies everywhere. You need to have those almost perfect moments. And when you really want to do something at the edge of your ability, if you walk away too soon, you don't know that you've done the right things. You don't know that it wasn't just that day. You don't know that maybe you didn't sleep well the night before, that you weren't rested enough. You don't know that you made a mental mistake that you could easily change, that a day or two from now, or an hour or two from now. So we encourage people at their limit to try more than they want to see success as the pieces of the puzzle, not success being binary. Did I do the thing or not do the thing? Because that will drive you crazy and you'll have to walk away. So you need to have this gradual approach that says, I had an incremental improvement today. I made it half a move further, where before I had been sort of right here, and now I was able to move from there in a positive direction. And we talk about the crux. So the crux of a root or a boulder problem is the hardest move or series of movements. So one or two movements, sometimes 3 or 4 movements that are demonstrably better than the rest of the route that you're trying. And you will get to a point where you can do all the easy moves, quote unquote, but you can't do the hardest move. And everything leading up to the hardest move has to be done like effectively, efficiently. You have to be tuned in. You can't be distracted. You can't be thinking about what you're going to do when you get home. So the focus has to be there. And we want, especially coaching or just in our peer group, encouraging people to try things at their limit. You have to keep working to know why you fell off and make that adjustment, and know why you fell off and make that adjustment. We're not talking about doing the same thing 100 times in a row and expecting a different result. We're talking about doing incrementally different things 100 times in a row and expecting a result. And that's actually what happens. And there are, lots and lots of cases of professional climbers trying, things at the sort of limit of currently, human ability for a year. We're talking hundreds of tries to do one individual body movement. And
Right.
That kind of dedication and that adjustment and that sort of mental depth, you learn a lot when you're in those places.
I bet. And it probably is also as much a personal challenge where you are focused, you're ready, or working out certain muscles differently, or whatever that is, sort of on the personal side. And I talk a lot about community and how does community feed into our success, and having, as much as it's a solo sport in many ways, you do need people like you, a coach like you, a community. When you said it's solo, but you're part of a community, how does the community feed into the success of somebody that's going back to it over and over, back to that challenge over and over again? How does the community actually support my personal journey?
It's a lot of people get drawn further into climbing because of that aspect. There's something examples I like to say, you can't call up Roger Federer and ask him to go play a set, but you can get on a plane and get in a car and hike to the hardest piece of rock in the world. And if you want to try it, you can try it. So because of the availability and the accessibility of all levels of difficulty, areas where people go to climb or in the gym, they're all right beside each other. So you can have a beginner and a 20-year pro climbing shoulder to shoulder in the same space. And they can each learn from each other. Mostly it flows one way. Mostly it flows watching people better than you. And the encouragement. So there's a natural energy for success. So I've been at climbing areas, and you get goosebumps even sort of thinking back on it. But I've been at climbing areas where it starts to become apparent that someone is very close to doing their project. So something they've been working on for weeks or months or a year. And every time they try it from the beginning, this might be the one. And it'll go quiet. And everyone there will respect this one person trying their one thing. And then it'll get loud. If you know that person wants vocal encouragement, then complete strangers will be yelling for you to keep going, to push through, to get to the top. And that happens in the gym, and that happens in your friend group. And it doesn't matter how good you are. And that's the difference, is that as a beginner, you get the same level of encouragement, sometimes more, from the people around you, just to be successful, just to do the thing you didn't do yesterday. And that really, it brings in a different level, and people recognize it, because it's not like going and playing a lot of field sports where you're in competition. You have a team who's encouraging, but the goal is to beat someone else. And even in competition and climbing, the goal is it's you against the holds that are in front of you. And there are other people around, but they are generally very, very supportive. Even in World Cup level, the climbers are quite supportive. They want to win, but not because you lost. They want to win because they had a better day. And it's
beautiful.
Really a really important piece of that puzzle.
It is. And it's so interesting as you're talking about what community looks like. And we are, I'll speak for myself and maybe a lot of the people that I coach as well, but it's so important that we get it right. So we're perfectionists in a certain way. We are the connectors, but we want the best connection possible. We want things to go without a hitch. We kind of get locked into forwarding our own careers, maybe in a certain way. But what I love about what you're describing is that you're really describing a family where it's like all levels, everyone's coming at this from a different perspective for a different reason. They are shooting for their personal best, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And in the events world that I live in right now, so many of my clients, they might be an entrepreneur, or they might be a small business owner, or they might be just doing a startup and trying to figure that out, and how are they connecting, or a nonprofit, like a volunteer team or something. And it's really easy to kind of get distracted by what everyone else is doing. But wouldn't it be amazing if we could look over and cheer them on? Or if we could look over and say, wow, they had an amazing success. That was a personal best for them. Or look at that event. I have another friend that's in the financial industry, and he noticed that one of his colleagues just started face-to-face events again. And he's like, oh, he's the first one in our circle that, went there. But he was saying it in a way like celebrating, like it's giving us sort of the courage to say, well, maybe it's coming for us too, where we can start to meet with our clients again. I just love what you're describing, because it really, I'm a solo. I was joking with my husband the other day that I tried to, I loved volleyball, but volleyball is a team sport. And when I tried to, I got onto the college team, and the joke was, for me, it wasn't a joke to anyone else, obviously, but it's just like, I just loved the process. I loved my personal best, but I think sometimes we forget sort of where do we fit, and because I think I definitely fit into more of a solo sport kind of personality, but then I still want the community, and what you're describing, I think, is what so many event planners are facing, is that they feel alone, or they might feel like they're doing this on their own, or they've just got to kind of keep focused on the wall. But recognizing you've got a community around you. I love that so much. And when we're talking about the crux that you just mentioned, I think for many of us, if we don't have the community, will we be able and willing and ready to go at it over and over again? So what a beautiful analogy. I love that. There is more. I could have this conversation all day. There's going to be more in your article in the upcoming Climb issue of Moments Magazine. And for those of you that are watching today, I would love for you to join us, because on the 10th of November, this is going to be Calgary Mountain Standard Time. We're going to be at 7 o'clock. Pete, you're going to be there. We're going to have a great panel. We're going to have some prizes to give away, but you're going to be talking about your journey in climbing. Can you give us a little bit of a teaser on what it is you're going to be speaking about that night?
Yeah, sure. I years ago would have struggled to tell you where the benefits of what I learned in climbing and competing and how they applied, because I've had, career office job for the same amount of time, basically, that I've, been in climbing. I managed the climbing gym for a little while, but I've been, sitting at a desk working away. And I would have told you that those things didn't really cross paths a lot. But the more that I think about it and the more that, you mature and you grow, I look back on having tried something for the first time, competed in it, coached it both for competitive athletes and for less competitive athletes, and now done commentary. We're trying to take what I know and apply it in a way that's digestible, that's understandable, that's not talking over or under people, and finding new ways to work through problems and finding ways to have teams be successful and individuals become teams. So the things that I've learned in those pillars of what I've done in climbing all have an impact on where I am now in my career and who I am as a person, and what I've learned from being in really difficult individual solo situations, sitting at home, obsessing over a single piece of rock, and what that's taught me about myself and the journey that it's taken me on through frustration, through anger, through success, through joy, all of that. So I'm going to try and summarize all of that in just a little bit of time.
Absolutely. And I know that where can people find you if they want to connect with you already? Because you've got a lot of things going on and have so much wisdom, but where can they find you today?
Instagram is probably the easiest. So MCP Woods is my Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn as me, Peter Woods, on LinkedIn. Those are the two easiest. I have a website that I'm building, but that's a slow process because it's off the side of the desk. But yeah, if you want to connect with me on Instagram, absolutely, and you'll find a lot of stuff about climbing, and you'll find a lot of stuff about cats.
I think I can hear one in the background.
Exactly, and then boulder climbing. So I coach at boulder climbing, and there's lots of programs there for people of every level. But if you see me out and about, just say hi.
Awesome. That's amazing. And if you want to see Pete at our launch, that's going to be again November the 10th. You can find your free tickets. It's just a free link to Zoom. It's all virtual at candyconsulting.ca/moments-magazine. Hopefully we will see you all there. Thanks again, Pete. So love this conversation. I so appreciate everything that you're bringing to this issue.
I'm happy to be here, and thanks for taking the time. And I could talk about climbing all day. So
perfect. We will do it again.